Sonic Talk.
Hello everybody, welcome to Sonic Talk episode 633. My YouTube dashboard is telling me that there are people viewing. It is working, it's just telling me the video is private. So welcome, this is a music technology podcast. This is not a streaming technology troubleshooting podcast, although if you watched last week you might have thought it was. Sonic Talk is designed to be talking about music technology, software, synthesizers, instruments, recording, live production, and maybe live streaming as well, because that's now in the sort of canon of skills that any musician is likely to require these days, as we are in week, I don't know, lots of lockdown, and I hope everything's going where you are well. Last week was a little bit of a nightmare. Just to recap, my machine basically had a Windows update the night before the Tuesday night. I came in on Wednesday and it had frozen. I thought, oh, I'll just hard reboot it. Big mistake. Windows is dead. Reinstall from scratch. And in fact, what I did last week, I didn't think the show was going to happen, and then I suddenly got it working. But I was actually running on a 2018 version of our streaming and switching software, which I didn't realize, which is why during the show various other things went wrong. But I think it was fun, and hopefully you'll all get to laugh about it one day when we can meet again to drink. We'll be able to reminisce and enjoy how complicated it was. But I do have some people with me this week, and hopefully my switchy switch will work. So I'm going to start with Mr. Gaz Williams, bass player, producer, music technologist over there in Bristol. How are you, Gaz? You well?
Yes, I'm. Lots of change and lots of cool things happening sort of studio at the moment, which is really fun. Having new studio furniture coming in and doing some quite radical ideas, which I think is going to be quite an interesting way of going about things. Trying to do like a setting up, because I've got so many like boxes and devices that it needs to be accessible by multiple people. So what I'd done in the other end of the room here is create a little setup. So, so a couple of people could use it, but I'm taking that to the next level now by creating like a definite two-player kind of space.
Right.
And the way I'm going to do it is what you got to imagine. Like the Star Wars battleship. The Empire's what are they called? Battle cruisers, are they? Those.
Oh yeah,
those big ones.
TIE fighters.
Oh
no, the one that looks like a wedge of cheese. Yeah.
Yeah. So imagine one of them, big one of them at the bottom, and then another one above it, but further back, and then another one above it further back. So you got like two
triangles. Yeah.
Triangles. Yeah.
Wow.
That sounds
interesting.
That's the idea. So you're kind of looking at your other player through the triangles.
In the eye.
In the eye.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
And it's going to be a all about sync. So all these devices are all going to be synced. There's going to be multiple sequences, at least.
Okay, this sounds like
6 or 7 sequences.
Sounds like a lot of. Are the triangle as allowing for a 2-meter gap between the players at all times? Unless that's the other thing you have to think of in these days, even in your own home.
Yeah, so that's that we'll see how it turns out. But the idea of that is so you can film it as well. So you put the camera at like the kind of the nose end of it, and then you can see both people kind of interacting.
Oh, that's an interesting idea. Yeah, cool.
Yes. So it just came to me in a dream. It came to me in a dream.
Wow.
And they looked like those Star Wars things you see in the dream. And so it's all about making your dreams a reality after all.
That's a potential show title there. I'm going Star Wars keyboard rig as a potential, because it's just about the right length. I think that's long enough for
Star Destroyers. They're called Star Destroyers.
Okay, I don't know. That Destroyers takes it too
far.
Destroyers, I can make wars. Destroyers is too many characters. Anyway, Gaz, lovely to hear from you, and I'm loving your coloration as well. You've got graded your camera.
One last thing. Later, I have got the show tonight, and I've got a special guest. So first thing I'm going to do, like in front of me, I've got the Glockenspiel.
Yeah.
And I've got that going through the Eventide H9 and the Strymon Volante, which
So
I'm
you just
sort of reviewing.
it's a very short impulse with the 25 million seconds of reverb. It sounds perfect.
And I swear, the deep joy I've been having with that, sort of, so I'm going to do a little bit of that. But the big news is tonight's show, Calc will be joining me. Chris Calcup
Excellent.
from
Yeah,
Novation. He's going to be joining me.
Well, you two always get on really well, so that'd be great.
Yeah, and he's got a really interesting setup in his room, and he's going to do a little bit of a few sounds and things for us as well. So that'll be from 8:00 tonight.
Excellent. On the Gaz Williams YouTube channel, in case you're wondering.
Thank you for that
and
plug there.
Facebook, I think, as well. Well, I didn't. It was anyway. Lovely to.
I forced it.
Yeah, I didn't ask, to be fair, but you're always welcome.
Yes.
Right, and we also have Mr. Matthew Hodson, aka Maths.
Hello.
Maths with 2 T's. Who's there in Brighton with his modular studio. And his new camera and his fancy new internet connection, because he's no longer pixelated. He's a man of high resolution.
It's the lights as well.
You have a lot of resolve, as it were.
It's the lights and the makeup and everything, and all this kind of thing.
That's the problem. As soon as you start doing that, you've got to make the effort.
I know, and I caught the sun a little bit, so I'm a bit red as well. But it's really interesting. Sorry,
I can fix that.
Okay.
I'll just drop the red down for you if you like.
Do it, yeah, please. And I think it's quite an interesting topic actually. What Gaz is on about there in terms of, I'm a little bit. I'm always looking at people's studio setups and how they've got it set up, ergonomically designed and stuff. I think it's so important. And sometimes I'll just look through Instagram or something and look at people's studio setups just to see where they've got their computer screens and where they've got the synths and how things are laid about. I think we could probably do a topic on that one time and get people maybe to send in photos of their setups. It'd be really cool to see how they've got things set up, and designed, because that'd be cool.
That's a cracking idea. Excellent. Definitely. I think we will definitely do that. Yes. So I'll post something on the socials and we can ask for that, because that'd be a really interesting topic. Good call. Good call. So Matt, lovely to have you on.
Oh, good. Thanks for having us back.
You're more than welcome. Particularly welcome when we have people with fine quality camera setups. It's always, look at these. We've got actually high res. Although Gaz, you're about slightly on the lurch. I'm looking at the back of your chair and it's at about 45 degrees. That one's all right, but this one, look at the angle of your bookshelves. They're almost at like 45 degrees there. You look like me. I've actually got a bad back, so I'm kind of keep. That's
better.
Like this. So yeah. There we go. He's there now. Right. So
I am a kind of wonky on the lurch sort of guy anyway. So it's only, they say the camera never lies.
Yeah, it still works. Whatever, that'll work. Okay, brilliant. Well, there's actually more news. A couple of things came in since I sent the topics in, but maybe we'll start with those because then we can get them out of the way. First big bit of news is RX8 is out. iZotope's RX8, which is
iZotope RX8 introduces new and improved modules,
I'm not going to play the whole thing,
updated interface, and workflow improvements across the board, all designed to solve once unsolvable problems for music producers, content creators, and of course, post-production professionals. So, let's dive into what's new in RX8.
This is going to be a bit longer than I anticipated, but new spectral recovery.
Introducing spectral recovery. Through advanced machine learning, this module is designed to recover and restore band-limited spoken audio, like voice-over IP calls, low-quality MP3s, archival recordings, and more.
He told reporters that the explosion had resulted in an estimated $3 to $5 billion in damage.
In RX's spectrogram, it's easy to see the resynthesized frequency content that spectral recovery was able to restore.
He told reporters that the explosion had resulted in an
Wow, okay, and more RX magic, and there are a number of things. There's wow and flutter, there's loudness control, a guitar denoise, which would be very useful, so because they're always trying to push more musical applications, because traditionally RX has been used, apart from in the Iris synthesizer, it's been used more for sort of post-production. I mean, we use it for if we've done an interview, someone's in a really reverby room, we can actually reduce the reverb. It's magic stuff, really, really impressive. So this one is out now. I I think announced today, in fact, and I didn't get a chance to write the news story because I was still testing the system, but definitely something that will excite a number of people. And Matt, do you teach RX and stuff and is it part of the
Yeah, we
curriculum?
do. Yeah, it is. Yeah, particularly for audio post-production stuff. You know, when you're out on location, you want to clean up a sound, denoise it, de-ess it, de-wind it, de-reverb, whatever you need to do. It's all de something. Yeah, we do that. I mean, iZotope RX has just become one of those industry standard tools now, I think, that you just cannot have, because I don't know if many people who watch the show have done much on location recording, but generally you just sometimes cannot control the environment that you're recording in.
No.
So, you know, we have to just be, we're sort of masters, we're wizards, aren't we? We always get expected, oh, they'll clean it up in post. And we go back to our studios and we spend hours. Now, back in the day, before iZotope, you'd be spending hours playing around with anti-noise plugins that just made everything sound like a wishy-washy MP3. And you would really have to work hard. And in most cases, actually, you ended up putting or matching noise back onto the recording because you can't get rid of the noise. So you actually add more noise to it to make it constant, if you know what I mean. You hear this sometimes in movies, particularly like in the 80s, at the end of lines, if they've been recording on location with somewhere where it's quite noisy, at the end of the line, you'll hear the sound of a car sort of come up in volume and then sink down because of the way that they're either limiting the voice and they're denoising it. And then they had to have more car noise added in to make it sound like it wasn't.
Yeah, I know what you mean. You kind of, it's like room tone, isn't it?
Weird.
In the movies where you kind of, because you might be editing dialogue and you might have cut a part of the the tail or a breath for the next one. You have this underlying tone which kind of helps fill the gaps.
Yes, it's all about making it feel concise and part of the scene, and we're creating a sonic picture. But I tell you what, in the usual sort of Matt Hodson, Matt's way, I've always been a big fan of using the content that you extrapolate. So when you're denoising something, you can listen to the content that you're removing sometimes when you denoise something, and you end up with this kind of, you get these weird sounds that I would then chop up and make into hi-hats, or you can sometimes find weird rhythms from them. So I do that sometimes with noise and background noise and the sea, and I would take out some content and I would keep that content that I was taking out. Not the good stuff, the kind of stuff that you would usually discard, and I would use that to make music with. And I just found that quite an interesting way of working.
Yeah, I know that, and that seems like a really interesting thing to do. I mean, Gaz, I know, RX, I mean, it can, it does a lot of things. I mean, they've been pushing the musical side of it a little bit for the D-clip, and sort of basically bringing recordings back to life. Somebody did a great tape, but there's something in the middle of it, and you can kind of deal with that.
Yeah.
RX. I mean, it is kind of magical stuff.
Well, I haven't seen what else is included in RX, but what I'd be really interested to see if there's any more development on the music rebalance tool that came out in RX7.
Improved
Does it?
Rebalance, yeah.
Does it?
Yes.
Oh, I'm fully on board then, because that was the thing that was for me and my workflow and the things that I've done. The music rebalance tool is incredible. Now, part of that has migrated across to Ozone in that you can adjust the relative balance of like the drums or the vocals or whatever. Well, it was in 4. RX does it in 4 categories, doesn't it? Oh, well, it did. So maybe they've changed this now, but it was bass, percussion, voice, and other. So everything had to be subdivided into one of those 4 categories. However, the results are fantastic, and you can use it for very subtle mastering kind of approaches. I've been going back to some old mixes, bits that have bugged me, just like little sort of phrases, like a little pre-chorus part where the vocal was just a bit under, and carefully just going, isolating those parts.
Wow.
Just go lift the vocal by 2 dB.
Wow.
And that little part. And then the vocal pops out a bit more, and it's just like, oh man, this is like going back in history and being able to fix those.
It's funny.
Mix mistakes.
I know what you're saying. I it's part of me kind of wishes that I worked in a different industry where nobody knew about RX, and like, I don't know, like
Yeah.
spy, or just somewhere I could just come along and
Yeah.
kind of go, well, you couldn't hear anything,
yeah.
but listen to this. And everybody goes,
Magic.
it's like night and day, the magic of it. We're getting
Brilliant.
used to all of this Melodyne DNA and the kind of FFT stuff.
absolute.
It's just, but maybe
Yeah.
the general public don't know
Yeah.
that this stuff is available. I mean, I may be underselling them, of course, but
Does it say on the RX8 thing, does it say where the improvements are in that algorithm? Because of course you can
no, it
use
doesn't.
you can use that algorithm in extreme ways and remove vocals entirely or remove drums entirely, or
Yeah.
essentially solo just the drums, and it's absolutely brilliant fun to put famous songs in and just sort of pull parts out of it. And I had a lot of fun when RX7 first came out and did a kind of hybrid of the Beatles' Drive My Car and the Stones' Paint It Black by extracting the vocal out of Paint It Black and turning off the vocals of Drive My Car, then bringing in the vocals of Paint It Black, but it over Drive My Car, and then just time stretch the phrases. Well, actually, even better than that, what you can do is you can take the pitch contour of the lyric and then apply that to the incoming audio. So it takes the pitch contour of the Drive My Car vocal and applying that to Paint It Black vocal.
Wow.
And the results were quite interesting, but of course it's all super copyright material. I decided
so you can't tell anybody. You can't. Just quickly, the RX Elements comes in 3 flavors: RX Elements 99, RX Standard 299. I think they're all discounted at the moment. RX8 Advanced 999, and there's probably some upgrade paths. And just a quick one, because somebody mentioned it in the chat room, I think, and I was thinking it myself. Mazda RX-7 sports car, Mazda RX-8. So they're actually maybe they're kind of they're parity with the Mazda's little sports car coupe range, only in software. Yeah. So anyway, I wanted to get that in there. I know it's probably it was a little bit out of the context there, but I thought I'd throw it in. All right, let's take a look at. Actually, before I do that, I want to just quickly. Do a plug for we did the Move Matriarch Q&A with Amos and Mark, which was really good fun. And if you want to find out a bit more about the kind of design process and some of the stuff going on back there, check that out. That's on bit.ly/SonicMQA. So bit.ly/SonicMQA will get you there. But also we did another video, I released it yesterday, where Ed was just doing some patching examples with using the attenuverters. He focused on those and how attenuverters in any desktop synth or any synthesizer actually add an enormous amount of functions. And in the Matriarch, there's 3 of them, which is quite unusual. But do check that out. That's on the YouTube channel as well. But let's get on to this.
There's nothing quite like it.
This is new Friktion.
The sound of a bow scraping across a string.
Modeled
It's
strings
the sound
for
of
Reason,
friction.
which of course can run inside as a VST inside other DAWs now, so you can access kind of stuff. And these model things
Expressive,
are starting to get
emotive,
pretty damn
dynamic.
impressive.
Strings can get to the heart of a musical idea, lifting it up, taking even a simple phrase, and bringing it to life. Introducing Friktion modeled strings, the sound of real strings in the Reason rack. With physical modeling controls for real-world characteristics, like the position of the player's finger or the scrape of the bow across the strings, Friktion is an instrument with an immediate and expressive response, making it a joy to play. Shape phrasing and dynamics in real time.
There we go. And I guess you would, like with a lot of model instruments, there's a lot of controller data that goes in this. This is quite interesting. I mean, obviously Reason is, it's a very specific user group. Lots of people don't use Reason. I'm one of them. I don't know if any of us do. I'm guessing probably some of Matt's students probably have to, they'll cover it, but it became this kind of ring-fenced place. And now they've got an interesting strategy, it seems, by introducing kind of really unique and interesting Reason rack extensions that you would almost buy the Reason to run the rack extensions as a DAW plugin, because you can run them in, I think you can run it via Rewire. Can you run Reason from within the rack extensions from within a DAW now as well? I'm right in thinking that. So it's an interesting approach, and this is again another instrument that they brought on. But it got me thinking a little bit about the power of these kind of modeled audio model stuff. I mean, there are I wonder if we're heading towards, in the same way that wavetable synthesis became a thing, and has been the last couple of years, we've had hardware and software that have really come to the forefront and everybody's wowed about them. Whether we're kind of heading to a sort of a new synthesis style that's going to come to the forward, and that might be audio modeling. I'm not sure what you think of that, either of you, but I just thought it would be interesting to discuss, possibly.
I think it's sorry. I think you're absolutely right, though. I think it's the marriage of MPE and super realistic modeled. I think when you play with MPE things, the limits of sampled engines, I think you kind of feel it. I think modeling is a much more organic response in the actual performance side of things, in my experience. So I think it's the two really coming together, super MPE controls. So with this Reason Rack thing, I was wondering about it in terms of what the different controllers were. It says there's lots of switching for the different articulations, but I mention this because the Expressive E, they brought out Arche, didn't they, which was modeled a violin, viola,
and very realistic,
a cello, and but the crucial part there was by using the touche as a bow. Although you could use your mod wheel as a bow as well, but using the touche and bouncing your hand and tapping and doing all of these things like bowing kind of techniques seem to give you really realistic, believable. So like your imagination as you're playing it, you can kind of feel
absolutely. That's the key, isn't it? It's the articulations that you can, because
the articulation
we've seen similarly contact instruments and Spitfire engines, whatever, they're all they do it via switching, and it's via real players, and that's really impressive as well. But I mean, generally with modeled instruments, the actual kind of nub of it, you're not downloading 16 gigs of sound, which for some people might be, might not be a problem, but it's quite an interesting it's a sort of parallel development of that whole thing. I don't know, Matt, I was asking you about that. So.
Absolutely. The fact that you don't need to download 16 gig of samples here and lob them on your machine is brilliant. The fact that this is, it's synthesis based means that I haven't played with this yet, but I'm hoping that you can really play around with all those different elements, like the bowing, the plucking, the vibrato, and just work with the synthesized elements of each part of the sound there. So if you can imagine, you might be like plucking a violin or something like that, but you can synthesize and play around the synthesis of just the attack or the decay and make those things quite interesting sounding, and kind of blur it between a violin sound and, like a big fat Schweiman oscillator or something like that, and morph between the two. Kind of reminds me of the kind of thing with the early Kyma systems. You ever use those, Nick?
No, but I've seen, they're
Kyma, Kyma. They had this ability to really very, very powerful. I mean, you had to buy a rack unit which had its own processor within it. It was very expensive, but it had the ability to morph between one sound and another. There's a name for it, and I forgive me, I forget the name of it, but it's where one sound, it's not an audio crossfade, but it's an actual morph of all the sound integrally from one to another, and that was really amazing when I first heard that. So if you kind of start doing that sort of thing moving forward, that really excites me as well, and using the control keys as well for not only the expression, but to play around with that synthesis articulation of the plucking and the legato and all that kind of stuff. That's what excites me.
Well, I mean, it's worth mentioning at this point. I mean, let's not forget Osmos. Osmos is a new physical controller with a built-in.
The best thing I've ever tried.
It's not with. I've forgotten what the engine is now. It's the engine inside.
It's the Egan Matrix.
The Egan Matrix, which is in the Hacken Continuum, which I don't know if it has any legacy with the software that you mentioned, Matt, but there's this kind of world where and that, I mean, we had a demo here, and obviously they're waiting for the physical stuff to actually appear, the physical hardware, which looks like it's going to be available in the winter. I think when that shows, that's going to be a really big, but this notion, I think what I find fascinating, because getting inside the technique for creating physical modeling. I mean, as a reasonably experienced synthesist, all of us have the ability, you know, to this. There's nothing in there that makes you think, I know how to even begin to make that. It feels like there's kind of somebody who has to be at the white coat laboratory scientists are figuring out the clever stuff, and then we figure out how to control it and what the modulations would be, but we have absolutely no idea the finesse to make those instruments sound even more realistic. I find that quite interesting as a concept, that it's almost like black box technology in a way. You know, we have no idea.
But this is where I wish developers would get more in bed with the producers and say, look, how are you playing around with this? What are you using? What's your go-to in the studio for articulation and expression, or just a MIDI keyboard or sequencer? What is it, and how are you pulling that all together? And what would be your desires if there was one dream system that did something? You know, I maybe there is some of this, probably more than I know actually, of this kind of communication between developers and producers. But I certainly have been asked, but I've got a lot of ideas about that. Get rid of the black and white keys.
I think you're heading back towards that notion of the perfect controller. I mean, when we did do the Zoom room, there was, you know, who's got the perfect controller? It's like nobody put their hand up, you know? And we're sort of, it's horses for courses. I mean, and the thing is with all of these things, that the thing about physical model stuff, again, there's this process where, you know, the bit where you figure out what knob to turn to do this and what the control law of that is, all of that stuff is probably really boring to set up. You know, once you've got it all set, you then have to learn how to do it. So you know, that part of the process we're probably not all that interested in. We just want to pick something up and go, oh, I can be really expressive without having to figure out all of the
it's got to be vibey, man. It's got to be vibey.
Yeah,
whatever it is, it's got to be vibey. That's all. You've got to connect with it, and that's why all of our studios are different. We've got different equipment. It's how we connect with it, and I suppose it does. I don't think there is going to ever be the one amazing controller.
No, I think you're probably right. Coming back to this, one thing that's interesting, you can buy it now for 99 quid. This is the Friktion modeled string in Reason Studios.
That's good.
You can download a trial, but they're pushing the rent to own, so you can bear 13 months at $7.99 so rent to own. So it's what's interesting there. What does that work out at? That's 13 times 7.99 equals. So as a finance deal, that's actually only about 2%. 2.5%, well, maybe 3%. But that's really interesting, isn't it? That way people are getting into finance, because finance is, you know, as we know, a bit of a black art. But this is kind of interesting.
That strikes me as being slightly more appealing than the you know, the rental kind of access,
just the
subscription model. The fact that you end up with it. We've talked about this in the past, haven't we? You know, that musicians typically want to own their instruments. They don't want to come back to a project from 5 or 6 years ago and be locked out of it. So that's a model I would like to see grow, I think, really, where you make
sense,
that.
actually, doesn't it? Because you could then just go, I need it today. We'll try it out for this project. If I really like it, I'll keep buying it. I'll keep going. And then I'll own it, and then otherwise I'll rent it. And okay, you might end up paying 2 or 3 months and then buying it anyway, but that's not unreasonable.
Or you say you spend a few months with it and decide you don't like it, then I guess that's it. You just lose access to it, I suppose. But you've just spent like what's that, like sort of
well, it's 2 months of Netflix, isn't it?
16 quid. Yeah. So it's. Yeah, it's an interesting business model, isn't it?
Yeah, I wonder if that's that'll go. Yeah, that's again another thing. Anyway, that was the physical modeling section, and do check out audio modeling as well. Audiomodeling.com. They've got loads of stuff, and the SWAM instruments, and their stuff is really good. They always have a booth whenever we used to go to events. There was always, like last NAMM, there was one, and the stuff that was being played there, particularly the sort of gypsy violins and the woodwinds, they sound really good. I mean, they've got very good people playing them, but they're very impressive. Okay. I wanted to do this because this came up this morning, and this is Mr. Mylar Melodies.
Today we're going to look at the dark horse of the Roland Jupiter family, the Roland Jupiter 6.
So this is a whole bunch of patches that Mylar Melodies is playing beforehand, and he's Christ, that is monstrous. It's great, and it's and it's something that people have always said to me to do. You should review vintage synths, and now Mylar's done one, and I've tried to include them in the Friday Fun thing. But the Jupiter 6, many people know I own a Jupiter 6, and I must admit, I still think it's better than the 8 because it does different things. It's got more far outness to it. I mean, it's not the same, but I just think it's a really amazing synth. There's a great video. In fact, I'm going to encourage you to let me see, where is it? I think I posted.
Well, go on, Nick.
Yeah.
What would you reach to for the Jupiter 6 for then? Is it the pads you say, or is it the bass, or is it just the fact that it can go from one extreme to another? Sell it to us.
That's a really good question, because now you're going to expose my the fact that I very rarely take it out of the rack and put it anywhere because it's so big. That, you know, I might use it. I use it for what happens is I pick it up and I occasionally turn it on and I go, oh, that sounds so fantastic. But bearing in mind, my day job is not making music. My day job is demonstrating synthesizers. So it's something I don't reach for on a regular basis because I'm generally, figuring out a synth. It's not, if I was though, I think I would be using it for interesting pads. What it's really good at is finding these kind of filter voicings where you can really just tune it to fit exactly in a place, and the harmonics of the filter, it's like the Juno 106 Extreme. You can get really interesting vocal and just really unusual harmonics, even though because Mylar Melodies mentions this, Alex mentions it, is when you're pulling these, when you're messing with the filter, there's so much stepping because it's such an early programmable synth. There's almost no resolution to any of the faders, or any of the parameters, but it doesn't matter. It just works. I just before I introduce, just wanted to plug Patreon Mylar Melodies. It's always worth supporting these guys, and you can go over there if you just check it out. I think you've probably got links in all of his show videos and stuff. But it's beautiful. I don't know, Gaz, have you ever experienced the joy of the Jupiter 6?
I don't think I have, actually. Jupiter 4, yes, and the Jupiter 8. And it's interesting. I was always a little bit underwhelmed with the Jupiter 8, not in the sound. Sound is fantastic, but just in its fairly standard controls.
I would agree.
So that's a curious thing about this one.
I think,
but it sounds a lot.
Yeah, sorry, carry on.
Go on.
I was going to say, I agree. I mean, I think the Jupiter 8 is. It's on a pedestal because it was the only synth available that the bands could tour, that was built to tour effectively. So it became iconic amongst a certain age group or amongst the fans of a certain music as the synthesizer. It's the synth.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree. I'm not all that impressed. I mean, it's impressive and it's a massive thing, but it's a very competent tool for the job it was made for. Whereas the 6 is more of a creative device. I would venture.
Is it heavy?
The 6,
not
as heavy as the 8, but it is still a substantial instrument. Yeah. Oh, just want to say thank you very much to Wagyu. Look, I think he's actually April the 1st every year. I played a straight retro. Okay, this is an example of super chat. April the 1st every year, we need a played straight retro Sonic Lab. Nick dressed up in period costume, flares and wigs, and pink lib. Not sure. I mean, I appreciate the input.
Yes,
I don't know.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, I think Gaz might be up for that. But thank you for the super chat and super stickers and all of that stuff. It's all great to helps fill the coffers, as it were. But yeah, back to your original point. Not as heavy as the Jupiter 8. Jupiter 8 is beastly.
I mean, I don't own a polysynth at all. No, I don't anymore. I've had a Juno and things like that. I'm actually Chris Calcutt. Actually, I reached out to him recently because I said I'm interested in the Summit. So I'm looking at that. Looking at the DeepMind and the Uno 6.
The
Udo,
Super
beg your pardon, yes, which I absolutely loved. I played on that at Super Booth, and I had one of those moments where I was just playing with it, and I was like, yeah, I'm really connecting with this. It's vibey. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what to go for at the minute in terms of a nice poly. You forgot one. Sorry?
Well, it depends on the cashew. I mean, I don't know. We're getting a Super 6 here to be reviewed in the next few days. Hopefully, I won't be able to get around to it for a bit.
Okay.
There may be other polys about to drop, but I would also say the Hydrosynth is well worth checking out, because
Absolutely.
you've got MPE, you've got the ribbon strip, you also got CV and Gate IO, and the modulation matrix and the effects in it are really, really good. I mean, because it's not, it's a modeled wavetable synthesizer, but I wouldn't discount it just because of that, to be honest. So I would throw that in the mix as well.
Yeah, the Udo is quite expensive, but I think it's now available in most places. You can find it online now. It seems to have suddenly appeared everywhere and ready to go and get off the shelf. There's something I liked about the simplicity, though, the interface of the Udo. I must admit, I connected with that quite well. It seems, I'm on the fence. Gaz, what's your go-to polysynth in your studio?
Sledge.
No, Sledge is dead. Sledge has been dead for a year now. I've got to get it. Sledge is dead, baby. Sledge is dead. Yeah, who's Sledge is dead. Yeah, Sledge is dead. Abyss. I love the Abyss. I really love for project work the DeepMind. Sounds great in mixes. Really, really good, I think. But I mean, I'm gassing for a Super 6 though. I think that is a premium instrument. I think you know that's sort of. I think well, we're quite spoiled for polys these days, though, aren't we? I mean, things like the modal Argon 8. That's a kind of really affordable one.
Great.
The Mini Log XD as well. So I mean, albeit not massively polyphonous. Is that the word?
Yeah.
I mean, even the Moog Matriarch video that you did, Nick. I mean, what you've done there, what I loved about that video is, because we've got a couple of them here at BIM in the university, and I wasn't getting anything out of them near as interesting as what you've shown as you can do since watching that video about, how you can patch it with it being semi-modular. So that's actually made me think. And the other thing is, I watched your video just again the other day on the Poly Behringer Model D. And it's simple, but I think the sounds coming out of that I really liked, I must admit. And for its price, I thought, that's pretty good.
Say, I mean, I can speak to that. I would say the thing about the Poly D, it's got, the oscillators do sound really nice, and they sound nice in polyphony. So, sorry, am I muted?
Sorry, your mic want to go up a little bit, Nick, I think.
Oh, does it? Okay. I'll turn my mic up. I beg your pardon. I'll turn myself up. The Poly D, what it's got is it sounds really nice on triangle wave and sawtooths as poly voices. It's got that kind of almost a quality of organ if you play it in the same way, where it's almost like legato chord and you're moving notes around in a chord. Where it doesn't win so much, I would say, is it doesn't have that sort of those extra synthesis things that you might think, if I could just, it's like the Mini Moog, it's a very basic synthesizer, but what it does do, it sounds quite nice at, So I would say it's when I reviewed it, I sort of felt like, well, it sort of feels like it's not really a proper polysynth because you can't do some of those things that you might want to do in a poly. I'm not dissing it, but if you're looking for a polysynth, then it might not be the thing that you would necessarily go for. I mean, the DeepMind, I would agree with Gary. I switched it on the other day because I was doing a demo of something, and it was kind of like, well, it just took me a little while to get back into it. And the one thing I did notice is, I mean, while it sounds great when you build it all up, the initial, an oscillator is not quite as impressive as some of the synths that we can hear these days, like a Hydrosynth oscillator or, like you say, the Matriarch oscillator are just, they're up here somewhere, but the effects and the modulation is really impressive on that synth. And that's something, if you're into that world of, I know they are, Matt, effects are really integral to your, and the effects in it are really amongst the best, in its class.
Envelope, the handling of envelopes as well. Like you can just flick a button and just change the envelope controls to control kind of inverse or exponential curves. And that is really nicely done, I think. There's a lot of good things on that.
Good
still,
Lord. Look at
I
that.
agree with you,
we're not bashing Behringer. What a surprise. Oh, and see, we don't. I just want, there's still comments appearing on the Cork Sniffer video. I can't be bothered to explain myself anymore. But anyway, lots of choice though, Matt. That's the main thing. You've got a ton of choice. Really. So that's the thing. Anyway, that was Mylar Melodies Jupiter 16. Really, really nice. I think we should probably do our competition that we've got for iZotope for Stutter Edit 2. So let's just do that now.
From the mind of composer and electronic music pioneer BT, in collaboration with iZotope, Stutter Edit 2 brings movement to your mix, faster and with more versatility than ever before. Stutter Edit 2 lets you slice audio into razor-sharp rhythms and moving effects, creating exciting new rhythmic worlds within your music. Instantly recreate the famous stutter effect in your samples, sound design, and beyond, all with a single button. Control a vast array of studio quality effects, all linked to the timing of your stutter edit, making it easy to add filter sweeps, panning effects, pumping dynamics, and more. Stutter Edit 2 is the fastest and most exciting way to dynamically elevate your music productions, sound design, film scoring, and more. Head to iZotope.com to download a free 10-day trial, and check out our other Creative Suite products too.
Yeah, and you can actually, I start on a bit of a roll. So similarly, you could download a demo, I think, of RX8 as well, which I might be tempted quite to do. Anyway, competition we got this week. If you want to win a copy of Stutter Edit 2, we're looking for the hashtag glitched out as one word and the hashtag Stutter Edit 2. This is a Twitter competition at Sonicstate and at iZotope Inc. So if you just tweet glitched out as a hashtag and Stutter Edit 2 with the number 2 to @Sonicstate and at iZotope Inc., you will enter into the competition and we'll pick from the random number generator the number of the entries in the list. So that's how we do it, and it's all jolly good. There was something else I was going to say which I've completely forgotten. Yes, I can't remember now, but we did have a winner for last week, which we should also announce, and it's a name that I can actually pronounce, which is a real positive for the competition. So we're looking for somebody, Prismatic Orb, whose actual Twitter handle is @OrbPrismatic. You tweeted the hashtags that were for the winner last week, so welcome to the Winners Club. If you want to get in touch, we can furnish you with that. We'll pass you on to iZotope, and they'll give you a copy of Stutter Edit 2. Okay, right. We did the RX8. Well, let's do this one then. This is a free synth. How about that? Eh?
Oh, wow.
This is Newfangled Audio, distributed by...
Hi, this is Brett from Newfangled Audio to tell you about our new chaotic synthesizer, Pendulate. Pendulate is a unique sounding synth with a lot of character. The focus of Pendulate is its chaotic oscillator based on the physics of a double pendulum. The chaos amount and chaos shape controls allow you to coax an extraordinary range of new textures from this module. Just like a double pendulum, this chaotic oscillator has 2 legs. We'll call them the root and the chaos. When chaos amount is 0, we only hear the root leg, and the chaotic oscillator will output a sine wave at the keyed note. But when it's raised, the sound of the chaotic leg will come in until it's the only one you hear.
The chaotic leg. That's got to be a show title, hasn't it? The chaotic
Yeah,
leg.
I think so.
I could just watch that pendulum. I could watch that for hours. I mean, that's just watching that thing go around. I might have to look into getting a chaotic pendulum.
Cool, isn't it?
Or what was it called? What kind of... I can't remember what it said. It was a 2-leg pendulum. Yeah, this is news basically
Double
from...
pendulum.
Double pendulum, that's right. This is news... Eventide, who distribute the guys, gosh, hold on, I need to scroll down. Newfangled Audio, that's right, giving it away. So you could just get this is a free sort of monitor.
Yeah.
And I just think what a time we're living. This is based on some kind of some concepts from Buchla himself. So there's a sort of there's a heritage to this concept, and it just looks like a lot of fun, basically. And it's free, right?
Yeah.
And it's not an iLock.
Well,
it doesn't need an iLock.
Yeah.
Yes, that's also true.
Why is it free? I mean, it seems a bit too good to be true. Are they launching? Are they trying to, I guess it puts them on the map a lot more, doesn't it? I mean, it seems like, because it's it's not like a cut down thing. It's got full MPE support as well. So that makes
cool,
it so that to kind of like map some of those MPE controls to the chaos parts, I think could be really, really interesting.
I imagine it's got something to do with some of their other products, because they do Elevate, which is a mastering limiter with a brain, Human Ear EQ, which I think we might have talked about sometime in the past, Punctuate, Intelligent so they've got a number of kind of quite unique and interesting type things. So this just looks like it's a freebie. What else could you possibly want? And no iLok, as you said, Matt.
Yeah, it's also monosynth. I'm wondering if they might do a paid polysynth version.
That's entirely reasonable.
But I downloaded this straight away, installed it straight away. There's a couple of presets on it that I just went through, and there was this crazy wave shaping stuff going on. I was like, yes, instant drone, dark, raw, just sitting underneath a big kick drum at 130 BPM for some techno, perfect, all day long. It's really good. I was really impressed with this as well. And when even you've got someone like Eventide, okay, they're only distributing it, but for me, Eventide has always been the seal of quality. I mean, when you look back at the Orville and the hardware units that they used to do, crikey, I mean, they were really pushing it, along with Kurzweil back in the day and that sort of thing.
Well, they're the algorithm kings, aren't they? We talked about this briefly. We talked about this briefly last week. This notion now that we're getting Eurorack designers who are building these little kind of DSP platforms, and they're putting their efforts and time into algorithms, because producing hardware is expensive and fraught with all sorts of dangers. So you put a lot of effort into one, and then you just pour different algorithm into it and give it a certain amount of control. And it's a really, it's quite a powerful model at the moment, particularly when there are so many things that can get in the way of distribution and whatnot. Just buy the platform and pour some more stuff in it. But and I guess even the kings of that.
This thing as well, when I first looked at it, I thought, oh, this interface is a bit whoosh. But actually, it's really, really simple. You've got your kind of oscillator section and a wave folder, and then you've got a low-pass gate, and then you've got the ability to do some kind of patching, actually, with these kind of virtual patch chords. You can start pushing the signals around to different places, which is really, really cool. It's MPE as well. Yes. So you've got that built into it as well for you MPE diehards out there who love all that. I'm just trying to think if I had some notes on this as well, because I was messing around with it quite a lot yesterday, and it's one of those plugins where you get it open and you suddenly like, this is cool, and you lose an hour to it already. So it's go get it. It's free. Don't need an iLok. All they ask for is your email address, basically, and then you get sent a load of spammy shopping things for shoes or something.
I'm trying to find the where you go for that. I guess it's going to be where is it? I'm just looking for that. It doesn't look like it's an Eventide broadcast, because this is the article that was on. Let me see.
I think the links from CDM take you to
there we go. So if you go to Eventide /promo Pendulate Synths by Newfangled Audio, there you go. So that I was just looking for the screen capture really. So it's very basic. So it looks a little bit like an old like a Odyssey kind of look.
But like I say, it's pretty easy. Once you start playing around with it, it's pretty easy. And if this is like because I think this is that company's first sort of synth, because like you say, they've done the mastering stuff before. So, if this is their entry point,
that's true.
Then I'm like, okay, you people are sort of doing something quite interesting here, and maybe them and Eventide are maybe even getting in bed and thinking, all right, what can we do together? Because Eventide, as far as I'm aware, there isn't any synths included in their suite of plugins. I have all of the Eventide plugins installed. I'm a big fan of their stuff. As I said earlier, particularly, I think there's the H3000 in there, which you can do all the kind of cross patching and stuff like that.
Hot sores.
Right, that's not like some kind of blemish. Like that's actually sore, as in sore wave, right? Just want to clarify.
Yeah, hot sores. Hot Sauce is a patch that on the H9, it was one of the patches that came out about a year or maybe 2 years ago, I'm not sure, is a synth that you can plug your guitar in, turn it into a synth. Hot Sauce is fantastic, and it actually sounds unbelievably massive. And I've done it in the Pop Dungeon. That I was using that as my primary big synth sound on the last couple of tours, and it does sound amazing. And I think it's easy to overlook that. But yeah, Hot Sauce. If you've got an H9, try plugging your guitar, or even better, bass.
Looking for Hot Sauce generally is giving me a very different set of results than I was looking for, shall we say?
Yeah, you're giving away how the privacy settings are set.
Yes, lumberjacks. There's lots of chainsaw videos showing up, but not anything to do with the H9.
Yeah, Hot Sauce. It's really good. It is really, really good.
Nice one.
Yeah.
Well, yes, you can. So yeah, free. Go grab it. Why ever not? Okay, we did that one. Gosh, we're going to get through to everything. Well, Matt, does the FSS MTX8 interest you? Should we do that one next, or should we do?
Certainly does.
Yeah.
Okay, right. Let's do that. That's video number 6. I will play that now.
Hi, this is the MTX8 from Future Sound Systems.
Finley Shakespeare.
It's an analog switch or routing matrix for audio and control voltage. It has 8 1/4-inch inputs and 8 1/4-inch outputs. There's a version with a tube screamer-like preamp on input 1, and you use pins to route the inputs to the outputs. In this video, I'll take a look at.
So yeah, one of Luke Pop's excellent videos. Again, I don't know how on earth he finds the time to do all of these things. It's quite terrifying, really. I feel very inadequate up against his productivity, but good for him. And so this is the Finley Shakespeare's. What's it called? It's called the MTX8. And I should have actually looked this up. Future Sound. I thought I had a web page. Future Sound Systems.
Future Sound Systems.
Let me just get that page up, and then we can have a look at the. This is Finley Shakespeare, who we've spoken about and to before, and he's just a great. Here we go. MTX. It's pin matrix. So very similar to what they do on the VCS3. I think the VCS3 has got a bigger pin matrix. This is an active pin matrix. The thing that's really interesting about this is for audio. It's not, they do a CV one, but this is for audio, right? And what it means is you can have multiple ins and outs, so you can sum and split because everything is buffered. So it's really useful, and it's a kind of micro patch bay, I suppose. So I'm going to come to you first, Matt. This concept, I would imagine, because I was thinking it was CV to begin with, and just the fact that it is just audio is actually kind of interesting as well.
It's wicked, yeah, because, big up to Finley and Future Sound Systems, by the way. I played on stage with him before, which was brilliant. Always great to see him play live if you can. Yes, he did the CV one, which you've got, which is for modular. And I remember when I was first getting into modular, I was talking to an old friend of mine, called Phil, who goes under the name of Ebsidic. He was patching stuff together, and I remember him saying, has anyone made a pin board kind of thing like the VCS3 so you can sort of send signals and split signals? And a couple of weeks later, this Finley's thing appeared online. Now, yeah, this one is for audio, which is brilliant. And this kind of goes back to right at the beginning of the show. I said it's really interesting to know what people are doing in their studios and their studio setups, because it's one thing having things ergonomically like a keyboard to the left and a synth to the right or whatever, but this then allows you to really sort of explore taking any equipment that you've got that kicks out audio and just plumbing it together in different ways and getting different results. And I honestly think that's where you can come up with some really interesting ideas. It takes a little bit of getting your head around about the in to the out and the out to the in and that kind of thing. But honestly, I think anyone would be able to get their head around this. And the fact that it's also in Finley's style, it's got some distortion built into a couple of the inputs, I think, as well.
Yeah, I think it's only an extra 20 quid to get the tube screamer type input. Actually,
right?
Really,
do it.
Yeah, It's really interesting. The thing that I saw, because I watched the Loop Pop video, the thing I found was that the kind of interesting idea, if you've got volume control on everything that you own, you could use it like an 8x8 mixer, an 8 input, you can actually, have 8 inputs and you can sum them together and then balance them because it's buffered. You don't get that weird kind of impedance thing where you turn something down and it doesn't respond in the same way. I guess this seems like the sort of thing that would really suit your studio. I mean, it's not cheap. It's kind of 400 quid, so it's a bunch of cash. But so you could buy a lot of Behringer mixers for that, couldn't you?
But I think in the new that new sort of battle cruiser thing that I'm putting together, I think may well have one of these in it. So it's really interesting. I mean, because one of the cool things with this is it's very easy to create feedback loops, and that is obviously a world of fun. I've got a bunch of things here, like my retroverb from Vermona, which is like a spring reverb with a filter and an envelope and an LFO, and you can do all sorts of interesting stuff with that. And typically it gets a bit underused because I haven't quite I've got it as an effect send, and
so patching it differently each time is more of a pain, right?
Yeah, and I think that thing about just being able to send it back in on itself as well, into something like that, has got some potentially really juicy action. And I've got a lot of pedals, so I think it's a really interesting way of using different words.
This idea of the switching matrix. I mean, when we first saw the Matrix Brute, that was something that I just thought, what we need is that 16 by 16 matrix with all of the kind of, because you press and hold and then you just set the attenuation. It's a bit like the Zoya, isn't it? The MPRX effects kind of, you could do that sort of thing because you've got a matrix there. But the idea of having this just matrix with 16 in, 16 outs that could be audio or CV, and you just basically find the point at which they join, and either you turn it up or you can attenuate or amplify. Just having a piece of hardware that would do that would be just so awesome. And I think at the time I talked to a few engineers, the problem is that you have to have either A to Ds on everything, or you have to have some sort of VCA on every single one. So if you've got 16 by 16, what's that? That's a lot, isn't it? A 256 individual kind of, it starts, but something like that as a like an active patch bay matrix is a really, I think that's a really strong idea.
I think. Go on, Gaz.
Oh, okay. Very quickly, I was just going to say, DivKid's in the chat room, and he has made a fantastic video about this, and he shows it being used with CV as well. So
okay, so it will handle it. Okay, so, well, I stand corrected. Brilliant. I'll see if I can find that. Yeah, head over to DivKid's YouTube channel and it'll be on there. Well, hopefully we'll get him on the show.
Video he's made.
He spends enough time in our chat room. It's about time he came on the show. Yeah. Come on,
been a busy boy.
Yes.
He's been doing a lot of cool stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's a great video, though. It's a really well-made video. I really enjoyed that one.
Excellent.
So, well done.
I think the thing about this product, this product as well, it kind of takes away that idea of, always thinking about sticking the reverb or the delay on at the end of the signal path. Here you can decide where it's going to go in the signal path, which is interesting. Same with a compressor or something like the foot pedal one I've got over there, for example. Sticking that in a different place in the signal path is good. And also for playing live. If you're like me, all my effects are guitar pedals whenever I play live, mainly. So if I've got my Strymons and delays and stuff, and for each song I can just move a few pins around, and suddenly I've got a new variation in the sound that I've got going. For playing live, I think this is also a great tool because it's small. Whack it in your bag.
Lights are down. You're just fumbling with a pin. It pings out. It falls on the floor.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Spill some beer on it.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I think programmable might be the answer. There are programmable matrix. I think but they're generally very high end, because SSL did a X patch, didn't they, which was a 16 by 16 matrix, and that's very cool but very expensive. There must be a way to make it kind of affordable, because that would be awesome, I think.
Can I just jump in? No, DivKid is just saying, just to reiterate, modulation, clocks, trigs, gates, audio. It's buffered, working at plus minus 15 volts inside, so good for guitar, line, studio, pedal board, and modular.
Right, brilliant. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
So that makes it, doesn't it? Yeah. That then just suddenly kind of blows it wide open of what it can do for you.
Yeah, because it's not something that was mentioned in the loop pop video. I don't believe. I didn't. And it's not mentioned in the specifications. But so that's well worth knowing. Something that a bit overlooked. Maybe it's a byproduct and wasn't designed in. I don't know. But yeah, very cool. Okay, well, we've actually got to 5 o'clock without anything drastically breaking. I feel kind of replete. I feel like maybe I can trust my system once again. It feels like maybe we're at a point, where I can just switch it on and it'll work. Woohoo! But I am going to do a system backup just before I leave, because that's actually that's one thing I wanted to plug as well, which is in no way a sponsorship point. But when I was looking for a way to back up my system, because I thought, right, I really need to sort this out, I tried Windows Backup. Windows 10 no longer has an inbuilt backup system that is reliable. It'll back up your documents and some settings, but it's still got this kind of legacy Windows 7 system imager, which is crap. It doesn't work properly, so don't rely on that. What I ended up doing is I got Acronis True Image, which is I think you could get it for various platforms. It's like 30 quid a year, but I mean, if your system absolutely relies on it, it's just very easy to set up. Like, image my system drive, and then you can have incremental differential backups. And it's just really sort of put my mind at ease, because now I know that I've got a backup from yesterday. This is my system. I deal with the actual documents and the video stuff separately, but this is just making sure that if it all breaks, I can take my USB key out and plug it into a dead machine. It'll boot to that and say, okay, where's the disk image? And it'll go, which one do you want? Let's have it. And it'll just rebuild it. And then, assuming the hardware isn't broken, I can put the system back together again. So Acronis True Image, absolute for Windows. I think it works on Macs as well, and it's got all sorts of cloud stuff. But I went for the cheapest option, and it works a treat. So well worth mentioning. And not only that, whatever you use, just remember to use it and test that it actually works, because there's nothing worse than finding out it actually doesn't. Isn't that right, chaps?
Yeah.
Yes. Well,
although
anyway.
we often wait until something breaks and then we invest in something like a really good backup system, right?
Yeah. Well, no, that's true. I mean, and I had an image, but I for whatever reason, I hadn't done anything since, and it was 2018. And it's just like, that's unforgivable. He's just got to get it in. It's got to become a habit. I think that's the main thing. Yeah. And then, you can always get back. But it's easier with OS X, because it's not locked to your processor and your memory. Whereas in a Windows machine, if you've got a working system and then you buy a new motherboard and all that, it's not going to be transferable. Where that's the one advantage that OS X has. Or I think in Linux as well, in some flavors, you could just kind of go, okay, put this in a new machine, and you haven't got to deal with all that kind of hardware configuration change. You need to reactivate your license and all that kind of stuff. Just saying. I'm sure I'm wrong on many accounts, but so anyway, Matt, thank you so much for joining us. Have you got any more live streams, and what's going on in your world? Have you got some stuff you need to plug?
Oh, crikey, nothing yet. There's some releases coming round the corner. I haven't got any live streams set up. I don't know why I haven't. I can go at a touch of a button, and I've been promising to do something with the Pulsar. So no, not really anything for me. It's just been great being on the show. I really enjoyed doing this and sort of giving back to the community, if you like, and connecting with people. So thanks for having us on.
You're more than welcome. I was hoping you were going to be talking about your gig down on Brighton Beach with your little portable speakers. What was it we thought you might have trouble overcoming the sound of the I forgot what instrument it was that we thought might, yeah.
Oh yeah, someone just playing on the cajon all the time, like that. Yeah.
Well, maybe you can, if you stroll on Brighton Beach, maybe you'll see Matt doing some modular jams one day.
All the Volkers connected up, battery powered.
Yeah,
portable PA system, just jamming it 3 o'clock in the morning, Brighton Beach.
Yeah, you could get a special trailer for your bike where you just literally just rock up, and as you cycle there, you're actually charging the batteries. And maybe you could take up juggling as well. That would seem to be linked to that, but perhaps not. Anyway, Matt, lovely to have you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Nick.
And also, Mr. Gaz Williams, thanks for joining us as well. It's been a pleasure. And of course, your show is tonight at 8 o'clock, the Gaz Williams show with Calc and your Sonic Journeys.
Yeah. I was remembering then when you were saying that about charging up the batteries, there was a stage in Glastonbury, like a small stage that was, the PA was powered by, pedal powered. It's so funny. I played on it, and and if the volume just starts to droop, so you got to get more people together to start pedaling, so get it back up again. Brilliant fun. But okay. Thank you very much. Really enjoyed this. Yeah,
look forward to your show later, Gaz.
Yes.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Yeah, he is good. Yeah, it's going to be good fun.
Yeah.
So I'm going to end this with a 3-shot and see if when I press the button and we say goodbye and thank you very much for watching, that all works. So anyway, see you later. That's Sonic Talk 633. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye now.